Gang Minecrafters, this is MC Rep, and I want to talk about what copper needs in order to enhance its uniqueness. Now, copper is a new ore coming in the Caves and Cliffs update, and a lot of people want it to be just like every other ore, give me some tools, give me the armor, but no, copper, just like everything else in Minecraft, and I've said this over and over again, that we need to make sure that new things have very unique purposes and very unique ways of interacting with unseen or underrepresented mechanics of the game. And I think what copper so obviously directly relates to is the ideas of electricity in Minecraft. Now, of course, we already have redstone, so we don't want copper to interfere with any of that. But what copper can directly interact with is lightning. Unfortunately, right now, lightning is a very seemingly magical, but yet inconsistent concept in Minecraft, and I think copper can really provide lightning with some more consistency. Of course, this is good for lore purposes, so we can see how things have originated and see if that has any purpose, but that's besides the point. Mojang's not going to tell us any of that, but ultimately copper interacting with lightning simply makes sense because, of course, right now we have the lightning rod, which is able to attract lightning, but in order to make that much more special, we need to turn that into something usable. Now, of course, a lot of people have said things about copper armor, and copper simply doesn't work, particularly as a full armor set. Like having everything on you being made of copper simply doesn't make sense. For one, copper is a very weak material. Copper, especially in real life, simply is very malleable material, which is why it's used in wires, because it's easy to bend and shave and manipulate. So if you're using that as an armor, things are just going to pierce right through you. Copper armor would be extremely weak. And also, it simply does not fit within our progression of other armor sets, going from leather, iron, diamonds, and netherite, and gold being mixed in there somewhere depending on how you're playing. Right now, leather is already being really missed out on when it comes to this armor set, so putting a new thing in this already complete progression is really not going to help at all. Thankfully, leather is getting some more uses because of this update, but it's still, given the fact that iron is so much stronger than leather, given that chain armor is not accessible at the moment, for that that middle ground, and leather armor is simply just too hard to get compared to iron. It's much easier to just get a full set of iron armor, or at least a partial set of iron armor, rather than trying to constantly farm cows and horses and things in order to get a leather armor set. So copper simply trying to make a full copper armor set that works just the same way as any other armor set doesn't really fit in there. But and despite, of course, the creative ideas I have seen online about how to make copper super special, like electrifying it and things like that, which I think are cool. They've definitely developed their ideas in a way that enhances or builds upon the ways that ideas should be made, that are very creative and very unique and balanced in the game. But ultimately, I don't think that copper really makes sense as a full armor set in any way. And I guess if I just address the elephant in the room, if we talk about, copper being electrified in order to give it kind of powers, and then you're charging it with your base, kind of like the idea that Simply Sark provided, it doesn't make sense if the copper armor is only protecting you at your base where you can charge it, otherwise, like, it doesn't make sense, because you want your armor to protect you when you're outside mining or when you're going to go fight a boss. That's when you need your stuff to be super strong, not when you're behind the safety of your walls. So I think that's kind of counterintuitive. With that out of the way, I think that copper armor can be fixed, though. We can make this work. Now, if we want to talk about armor specifically, let's make it very simple. One piece of copper armor, and particularly making it fit for the alternative armor set. I've mentioned this concept a couple times, looking outside of the natural progression of armor, we do have kind of an incomplete alternative armor set. Right now we have the turtle helmet and the elytra. Now, I can talk more about how I think these two could be used. I think the turtle helmet should be buffed in certain ways in order for it to actually be much more usable, but besides the point, I think copper particularly copper boots or copper greaves, whatever you want to call it, would be an additional piece for the copper armor set, or for the alternative armor set. My apologies. Instead of trying to make copper just like any other armor, copper should have a very specific use. Of course, as I said before, I wanted to work with lightning. We wanted to work with what we already know. Of course, one being lightning, but another thing being tridents. Why? Now, let's say you're wearing your copper boots and you walk on a certain block. I think the most common example could be something like carpets, and you can charge your boots up with a little bit of static electricity so that when you're through one of your tridents, instead of having to be in a thunderstorm with the channeling enchantment, you can have your trident automatically be kind of electrified at that point, or cause an electric or cause lightning to strike wherever you throw it, because you've charged it up with your boots. The kind of lightning transfers into the trident to give it more power. I think that's a very simple and unique way to kind of give a buff to the trident, give use to copper as an armor piece, because as I said before, copper is weak. It's not going to be able to do anything on its own, and I think trying to make a complicated system of, charging and electrifying it and giving it powers and things like that kind of makes everything too complicated. Minecraft wants to be simple, so just make one piece, charge it, your trident is charged, and then you can more accurately control where lightning strikes, instead of having to wait for a thunderstorm and have the enchantment on in order to be able to use it. And I think this simply allows us to harness the powers of lightning, which is really what I really want to be, what copper should be able to do. We should be able to use lightning in our everyday lives. Right now we have the lightning rod, which can attract it, but what does it do after that? And if we can, after lightning hits a rod, it becomes charged, or maybe after a certain number of hits, it becomes charged, and then you pick the block up, and then you can craft something with it in order to create, those charged boots. Or a second idea, I have a video before mentioning the important, or hopefully saying that we might be getting something with the fletching table in this update, just like we got with the table that gives tools netherite. I don't remember off the top of my head now. But in the previous update, the blacksmithing table, smithing table, that's what it is, yes. So with this update, the fletching table, I've already said, the brushes should be coming to the fletching table. I think that makes sense. But in addition, what if we give a new type of arrow using copper, particularly our charged copper, so we can harness the power of lightning? In this, when you make a fletching table, you can only do this on the fletching table. Instead of using flint, we'll use our charged copper to create, charged arrows. These arrows will be a little bit stronger, but given that they have this charge, and mobs that are hit with these arrows will be treated as if they were shocked by lightning. So in other words, if you're hitting a cow or a pig, it would drop its cooked meat if killed by a charged arrow, because it would be essentially shocked and burned to death in a sense. If you hit a creeper, even if it doesn't die, it becomes charged at that point. Or if you kill a mob with a charged arrow, they will drop their heads as if they were being killed by a charged creeper, or something along those lines. And I think something like this makes sense, so we can have more uses for the fletching table. We want to be able to make some uses for this outside of just what currently bows and crossbows do. And I do hope that the fletching table does get more uses. I'll restrain myself from talking about it, but I think this idea is rather cool, because if you have to wait until your lightning rod is struck by lightning in order to then craft arrows out of it, I think that will take a very long time. That's a lot of patience that's needed in order to be able to try to harness this power, and then being able to get a very good benefit out of it. It's kind of similar to flaming arrows, but having a bit more of uses, being able to charge creepers automatically, so you don't have to wait for lightning to do it. You've already waited with your lightning rod to get strike, so now you can harness that power and use it when you want to. And I think kind of that's what it fits well in the spirit of Minecraft, given that we want to interact with the world and be able to control as much as we can. I think this simply makes sense, and I don't think it's an overpowered thing. We don't have to make the arrows like that much stronger, but given the fact that they will kind of do a little bit of extra damage, given that they're shocking and burning you a little bit, I think it helps with that. And I think, with these two very simple ideas, or maybe just one, I think that copper will become a little bit more unique, being able to develop the ideas of what lightning can do in Minecraft. And hopefully I think Mojang should be able to do a little bit more, what copper could do with the lightning rod and then harnessing the power of lightning. I think there should be more, but maybe more in a building aspect or something like that, but maybe not necessarily a combat aspect. But I think these ideas are very simple. There's no complicated charging methods or anything. There's no a whole lot of blocks or anything that you have to put down, and it's not interfering with the progression of the game naturally. When you get copper, you can make your lightning rod, you charge it, and then you can benefit from that patience that was inputted from that charge. And I think that's really going to help copper be the unique ore that it needs to be, and not being just like every other ore, being able to craft all the tools and armor pieces out of it just like everything else, because copper simply isn't made for that. Copper simply can't do that. And so I think that would be a really cool idea, and I think this is what copper needs in Minecraft. And with that being said, Minecrafters, don't be a Fortnite fool, Hytale hypocrite, or Roblox reject. Always be an amazing Minecraft master. Stay blocky.